Okay, good morning, everyone. Very sorry for the delay here. We had a little bit of embarrassing technical difficulties. But we're ready to get started here now with today's session, which is SmartSights technology for water and wastewater. My name is David Nolan. I'm the Senior Application Engineer here with SmartSights. And in today's presentation, we'll be taking you through an overview of how our solutions work and the problems they solve in water and wastewater. We'll do a little bit of hands-on demonstration. And of course, we will take a few minutes at the end of the presentation for some question and answer. If anyone does have questions throughout today's presentation, just use the question and answer menu inside of the GoToWebinar window. All right, let's get started. So I think across SmartSights solutions, really in general, what we're doing with our products is increasing visibility into the industrial processes running in water and wastewater facilities. And we'll kind of talk a bit about how that makes your lives easier as integrators, as plant operators, or as staff working in these facilities. So some of the benefits of SmartSights technology are, particularly to start, our Win 911 notification software, is it basically it increases the uptime, right, of plants, increases the response rate to alarms, which in the end results in smoothly running operations and reduced maintenance costs. And you can see here on this slide a couple of examples of where our solutions have been deployed in the town of Falmouth, Massachusetts, as well as in Lato, and also in with one of our partners, Ecologia. On the other side of our functionality with reporting, our Excel Reporter product is used across the country. We have deployments in over 35 states. Essentially, one of the use cases for this tool is to automate the compliance processes that you have in municipal drinking water and wastewater. So typically the compliance forms that are required to be submitted to state level government agencies are made available as documents such as Excel workbooks, and those documents can be imported into the product to automate the compliance reporting process using the government's form and using the data available inside of your PLC, SCADA, or HMI system. And the example we see here in this slide is one from the Massachusetts DEP. It's drinking water, surface water treatment form. And this is a long form with a lot of different information on it. But this particular form deals with the turbidity compliance data, the samples that are taken above and below the compliance thresholds here. So how do these solutions work? Our notification solution as well as our reporting solution. When it comes to notifications, essentially it works by monitoring an in-plant alarm system. It can also monitor control systems directly, PLCs through OPCDA, AEUA, ANC. But we do have native connectivity to leading HMI SCADA vendors like Rockwell, Aviva, GE, Schneider Electric. And we can think of the alarms, right, that are coming out of these systems as sort of a fire hose information. We don't know what alarms are going to happen and when. And so the way that our tool sort of parses these and targets them to specific people is through subscription, right? We can target alarms based on an expression inside of the alarm message, right? What plant is that alarm happening in? What's the severity level? What type of alarm is it? Is it electrical, mechanical, safety, and so on? And we can target those alarms to different people at different times through call-out lists, escalation, and branching logic. And our notifications can be delivered by voice, email, SMS, and mobile app, which you see pictured over here to the right. All of the interfaces also include acknowledgement and requests for reports and data, so people can acknowledge alarms through the app or through a phone call. It gets pushed back into the underlying SCADA system. And they can request diagnostic data and dashboards that help them understand, get better visibility into the process, and better understand and more quickly resolve alarm conditions. With reporting, basically we connect up to data sources, similar to notifications. We support all the same interfaces we just spoke about there. But typically with reporting, you're talking about connecting to process history, right? Trends, diagnostic information, analytics, alarm metrics. We can connect these different data sources And you can use either out-of-box reports that are included with the product for things like trends, tables, chemical level analysis, or you can import existing Excel workbook files, such as the government forms that we mentioned a moment ago. Using any of these options, we can generate reports on time or on event. So think of generating your monthly compliance report using a daily scheduled update, calculating metrics from your historian. Think of generating a report based on an event, such as when an alarm happens. Right? You can capture some metrics or trends related to that alarm life cycle and push them out. We can also generate reports on demand, either through a local browser client, a Windows desktop client, or from our Win 911 mobile app. So why would we bundle these two capabilities together, notifications and reports? We can certainly think that in water specifically, we can see how remote notifications are beneficial. It allows people to work remotely, to work off-site, or it allows alarms to reach them off hours at night when they're not in the plant. We can now run unmanned overnight shifts. It enables much more flexibility and better response time to our alarms. And we can all probably see the benefit of automating compliance reporting, right? So it's a tedious task for plant operators to complete every month. There's a lot of manual labor. People typically do this by sort of fussing around with Excel add-ins and copying and pasting information from a database and filling out that form manually. This tool can automate that whole process. But there are also some unique benefits we get when we combine reports and notifications. It actually becomes a different solution that SmartSights offers called the Smart Bundle. And what it does is it allows you to kind of more target specifically the information that different roles in the plant need, right? Different people associated with the water plant operations are going to need to consume different information at different times. And so this bundle sort of serves that, right? It allows people to receive notifications on their mobile device anywhere they are. It allows them to collaborate with people, see who has responded to alarms, who hasn't, form group chats so people can give advice on resolving alarms. We can push process data and analysis with these alarms. People like process engineers or regulators need to know specific compliance information for a process. And then someone like a plant operator or a supervisor, right, might need to know more of a passive dashboard kind of context, what all the processes are that are running inside the plant, what's their current state, what's the current flow of alarms going out to the different roles around the plant. They get kind of a summary feed of all this information in one place. And so by taking our different clients that we use for reports and notification and sort of combine them, it allows us to deliver the right notifications and information to different types of people in different contexts. So now we'll kind of change gears here a bit, just some hands-on demonstration. And we'll kind of begin by taking you through this mobile app that we kind of been speaking about in the slides and sort of some of the capabilities of that app in sort of remotely monitoring a wastewater or water treatment process. Give me one moment here just to get my mobile app screen up. Sorry here, folks. Okay, so I'm going to bring my iPad screen into the display here, which is sort of connected through a Teams meeting and inside of our GoToMeeting here. But what we're looking at is the Win 911 mobile app running on iOS. And so this application runs on iOS and Android with display layouts for phone and tablet size screens. Here you can see it's running on an iPad, a tablet. And what we see is a live feed of different alarms coming from my water plant, say, for example. Excuse me, we take a look at one of these alarms indicating that a pump has stopped, right? I can see here in the app all the history of the times that this alarm has happened, say, over the course of the day. It appears to be happening quite frequently, going in and out of service. I can also see who on my team has seen this alarm, right? Here, it's just me in this example, but I can see that the time, for example, the notification was sent to me or any other person that it gets sent to, the time that it was viewed. When these, when these notifications go out, they form a group chat between all the people who are on the list to receive this alarm, so people can, explain what they're doing. They can chat with each other. They can acknowledge the alarm, back into the underlying SCADA system. And in general, right, you're just getting a much richer feed of information about what's happening with this specific alarm and with all of the alarms in the process than you would, say, simply by receiving a text message or a phone call, as each individual alarm happens. There's also some administrative settings and tools we can use in this app, as a sort of a managerial role or a plant manager that helps us sort of manage the group or the workforce of people who are responding to these alarms. And so, for example, on my connections menu here inside the app, we can see all the different SmartSights people that I have inside of my Win 911 response team here. And I'm able to see, for example, if we go into one of these contacts, we can see the role, right, that person is associated with. We can see the schedule. This person in particular works the night shift, right? We can edit that schedule. We can move them around. We can do this, right, without having to be in the plant looking at some local configuration interface inside of a SmartSights software tool. You can do this from your pocket anywhere. We can also look at things rather from a people-based perspective, but from a notification policies perspective, right? So we can have different policies that associate with different types of alarms. And so thinking back to the pump alarm that we just looked at a moment ago here, I can look at the pump's call-out list, and I can see that, okay, first, in this call-out, the system's going to notify Brendan. And then if Brendan doesn't respond, it'll notify me. It'll move on to Dylan and James and Jeremy, and so on. And we can add and remove people from this list. We can change the order so that, poor Brendan isn't being notified first every time this alarm happens. And so this tool just gives us, sort of a lightweight, easy-to-use interface, not only to see and respond to alarms, but actually manage the response effort across the team. One other thing that this application does is it also includes reports and data. And these reports can be pushed with alarms. So say when that pump alarm happens, we can get a diagnostic report that will tell us, right, some information about trend data leading up to the time of the alarm, right? We can see the variable, right, that triggered the alarm. Maybe is this one. We can see some associated variables over time as this tank level is going up and down. What's happening to the temperature, say, of the what's being stored inside that tank, or what's flowing out of that tank and through this pump, for example. So it just gives us a better context of what's happening over time and the relationship between the different variables or assets that could be involved in an alarm. We can also look at this more as a passive or a dashboarding kind of tool. For example, right, we can take a look at the state of our compliance data to this point in the month. It's May 1st, unfortunately, at the time we're doing this webinar, so we haven't actually recorded any compliance data yet, but you can see here this is that Massachusetts state form that we mentioned in the slides. I'm able to actually see and assess the current state of this compliance data, from my phone or my tablet. We can also look at more operational data. Say, for example, we can pull the chemical levels of the various, EPA regulated chemicals being processed through the plant. And we can see things like the chlorine level over time. We can see the last known value as well as rolling 24-hour average of different regulated chemicals like chlorine or variables like conductivity, NH4 and O3, and just look at things like the temperature and turbidity of the water at different points in the system. So this tool lets you see and respond to alarms, lets you manage your workforce and how they're responding, across all your alarms. And it lets you see some insights into your process data that can help assess where you are in terms of your compliance targets and operational variables as well. So now, that we've kind of taken a bit of a look at the app, let's change gears and look at the underlying configuration of the tools, that we use to get here. Because you might say that everything you're showing us inside this app looks really interesting and useful, but it's only really valuable, right, if people are able to implement the tools and take advantage of them. And we find that the tools we have for monitoring alarms and process data are quite easy to work with, and so I'll show them to you here now. So what we're looking at is my Windows desktop, and this is the Win911 workspace, right? This is the configuration behind all the information we were just looking at inside that mobile app. And so when it comes to defining or configuring the alarm notification system, it starts with the people, right? The people who are actually going to be responding to these alarms. And so we have a compact directory interface. You can see I've got a bunch of different SmartSights people here loaded into my demo system. And one of the benefits of this is the system is aware of some information about your workforce that helps you route the alarms to them and helps their response. And so each person has the concept of a connection, right? All these users here are mobile app users. I've got one email user here, but we can also plug in people's phone numbers for texting or phone calls. We can set their permission level in terms of whether or not they're allowed to acknowledge alarms through that mobile app that we just looked at. We can set their schedule, right, so that these people only receive alarms when they're actually on call. Obviously, in my case here, I've got some people that work are on call 24/7. Some are weekday workers, some are night shift guys, some are work on the weekends. And so the system is aware of that and will not notify them at a time that they're not on call. We also have the concept of roles. You can see here, I've got a couple different roles, operations staff, control system engineers, IT and security managers. These roles can also be used to route alarms, so we can trigger an alarm to notify all managers or all operators, and so on. And you can see that people have multiple roles associated with them. Tom Trainer here is carrying the team on his back. He's part of the control system, IT, security, and managers, for example. So once we've assessed, who the people are that are going to be responding to alarms and various information about them, we actually can connect into the alarm system, right, to begin routing those alarms to those people. And the way that this works is through subscription. I happen to be connecting to a Rockwell Factory Talk alarm and event system here, and I've got a bunch of different notification subscriptions configured here. The one we'll take a look at here is the pumps subscription. Think back to those pump alarms we were looking at in the mobile app. So how those actually get routed out to the app is we actually look for any alarm message text or alarm name that has pump in it. And when we see an alarm that has pump in the name, we're going to initiate a notification policy called pumps callout. And what is pumps callout? It's a notification policy which can take one of two different forms. There's sort of a basic and an advanced form. And here, excuse me, if we look at the pumps callout, you can see it's a call out list, right? And it calls basically people in an order. It has a delay between each notification. So here we're going to call this person first. We're going to wait a minute. If they don't get the notification, we'll move on to the next person. We'll sort of move through this roster this way until we reach the end. And then there's a repeat policy. So we can say, all right, no, these pump alarms are critical, so we're not going to stop doing this. We're going to keep going through the call out list until one of these guys wakes up and answers the alarm. We can also just say that maybe for less critical alarms, we want to repeat this 2 or 3 times or not at all, for example. So this is a basic alarm notification policy. We also have advanced notification policies, and these give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you respond to alarms. And we can kind of take a look at this via what we call a workflow, right? So if we go into the workflow editor for this advanced policy, we can see it's more of a branching flowchart type of interface. And this one's very simple. Here, when this particular class of alarm happens, we're going to notify David Nolan. We're going to notify all the operators after he gets notified, and then we're going to push a report to David Nolan since he's the plant manager in this case. We can also use decision-making logic, right? We can take, for example, if the alarm has already been acknowledged by somebody, we can take a different track, right? We can do nothing and notify a different group of people. If the alarm is happening in a particular schedule, if it's the nighttime or the daytime or weekday or weekend, we can go through two different lists. Say, for example, we initiate one call-out list for the weekend or one call-out list for the weekday. We can do things like look at severity. If the alarm is happening over a certain severity and it's a weekday, then we can notify one person. We won't make this a training lesson on how to use advanced policies, but I think in the audience that you get the idea that you can be extremely nuanced with how and when you target alarms to different people, which can be handy for alarms, right, that are very specific high severity alarms, for example. So once and apologize for going on a little bit of a diatribe there, but just to bring people back to where we are in this alarm notification process, we've defined who we're going to notify when an alarm happens. We've defined, what alarms we're interested in and who gets notified at each type. And we also have the concept of a gateway, right, which is how we route alarms out. So right now, I've got two gateways installed in my system, a mobile app and an email. But we also have voice that works with our plain telephone line or VoIP, as well as SMS, which works with dedicated hardware modems, which we also supply an officially supported set of, based on region and carrier and that sort of thing. So once we've got all this in place, the alarms that are happening inside of our plant are now also being routed out to people remotely via the app. The other piece, obviously, of the puzzle here is data and reports. So we're going to shift a little bit here once more to our Excel Reporter product. And this tool is what allows you to generate those operational and compliance reports that we were showing a bit earlier. And so just to shed some light on what this tool is and how it works, it connects into process history. So things like the data logs available in your HMI, time series databases, dedicated process historians, things like, LIMS systems. It also supports manual data entry. So there are things like operator observations. Those can be logged and added into the system. But then whatever the data source is, we can use that data source to generate reports. And these reports can be for the context of water and wastewater, they can be more operational in nature. So this is basically like a tank turnover summary, right? This might be used by someone like a regional water authority that is, purchasing water from a government entity, treating it and then distributing it out to its customers. We can look at, say, for example, the different level of ingestion and consumption, right, at different points in the system every month over the course of the year. We can also, break this data down by day within a month, so we can see every day, what was filled, what was consumed. We can see a trend of this information, and we can see where the min and max are at each station each time. And all of this is basically just being provided, right, by some data that's filling this area of an Excel workbook file. An Excel Reporter's scheduler component is automating it every day, going and collecting this data and building it up over the course of the year. So this is an example, right, of just automating some simple but actually really useful in a business sense, right, kind of operational data. We can also look at compliance data, right? So this monthly form here was the form we were looking at inside the app a moment ago. This form is required by all plant operators in the state of Massachusetts. And this particular section of the form looks at turbidity or the cleanliness of the water. We specify some metadata like how we're actually treating the water in this context. It specifies the limits, number of samples taken below 0.3 NTU or above 1.0 NTU. And we fill this data out in this form. And I just want to take a quick look at the configuration of this so we can see that it actually is very simple how these kinds of reports can be automated. So in this case, right, we're looking at the template here in Excel Reporter's Template Studio. We can also run this tool as an Excel add-in if people prefer. But we have the blank version of the government workbook, and it has some data mapped onto it. Right here we can see we have some data mapped right into the top of Form F here in this SWTR form. If we open up this connection, we can see that it has the turbidity value coming out of a combined filter tag and a process historian. Right, this represents the history of the NTU samples that represent the turbidity data, and we're grabbing the maximum of that, right? Because we need to know every day what the max turbidity sample was. We're grabbing the count. We're grabbing the conditional count where the value is less than 0.3, and we're grabbing the count where the sample is above 1. I know we're out about time here, but since we did start a few minutes late, I'll ask the audience to kind of stick around for just a few minutes as we finish things up here. And so once we've identified the tag, right, and the metrics that we want to include in the report, we specify that we want to calculate these metrics every day over the course of the month, which is the format of the report. The data gets mapped on top of it. We have a naming convention that says every time we make this report, we're going to save it into a file named after the year and month. So think 2024 May or APR or June. And then we have a scheduling component that allows us to simply process this thing automatically around the clock, every day in the background as the plant runs. And so this is only one component of this SWTR form. But if we think about scaling this up, right, to all the other concepts in this form, like CT determination, various chemical additions, you can see how automating this, right, produces this compliance report in a very consistent way automatically, and removes that burden of labor from the plant operator. Essentially, all they have to do is sign off on this thing and send it out, and submit it to the government. One final thing I'll leave the audience with here is, since we've looked at notifications, we've looked at data and analysis, is just a view that we also offer in the SmartSights bundle called the Control Center. This is a tool that installs with the Win911 component, but it creates automated dashboards using the data provided by Excel Reporter. So in this Control Center tool, we can see, for example, right here are the pump alarms that we've kind of been going on this journey with through this whole presentation. I can see the live states of those alarms. I can acknowledge these alarms. I can look at the history of them over time. I can also look at dashboards. So this is the managerial kind of view that we were talking about a moment ago. I can look at information like what's going on with the alarm system. We've had so many alarms in the past day. We've got 5 active alarms right now, 6 inactive, unact alarms, right? Alarms operators aren't acknowledging. We can also see process data. So if we go to the water chemical analysis dashboard, right, we can see that this dashboard is powered by that report we looked at in Excel Reporter, but it's arranged into different tiles, right? So if I wanted to put this information on this dashboard, I can add a tile. I can use one of the alarm tiles that we looked at. I can add an Excel Reporter snippet tile here. And if we look at what's available here, we basically just select what Excel Reporter report we want to pull that tile from. So we can look at, for example, a turbidity sampling report that we made in Excel Reporter. And we can look at a 7-day scatter plot of that turbidity. And we want to make this widget take up, a 2x2 size on the grid. And once we do this, this information will be on that dashboard. It'll refresh automatically in the background. So you can use this as sort of a lighter weight, version of something like an HMI SCADA. Obviously, those who use HMI systems know that they can tell this display isn't quite an HMI, but it's an easy-to-use, lightweight tool that you can deploy around your plant. We don't license the session count for this thing, so you can stick this thing on displays all over the plant and just use it as an easy way to get at visualization and analysis of process data like chemical levels and flow. This Control Center tool also allows you to temporarily bypass alarms, right? So say you're doing maintenance on some equipment that's going to be disconnected or shut off, and that's going to create a bunch of nuisance alarm activity that doesn't represent a real abnormal condition. you can define that you want to bypass alarms for certain periods of time, say while planned downtime or maintenance is happening. You can also program this thing to announce alarms over a speaker, right? So if you can throw it up in an office or in a break room or even just on the plant floor, just to enunciate using audio what alarms are happening, right? And that when that pump stops, instead of getting notified in your app or seeing it on the screen there, it will actually play out of your speaker and tell you that it stopped. So this tool, control center, all together with these different views, the live alarms, the history, the dashboard, bypass, and announcer, it's just a very handy toolbox for people like operations staff in a water plant, because it's a simple, lightweight tool that elevates the data out of your HMI SCADA and puts it in more places where more people can see it and benefit from it. I know we're at about time here, so I'll cap things off, and we're over time actually. I'll cap things off, and I'll kind of take a moment to address any questions if there are any coming in from the audience. Looks like we do have one question. Oh, just a comment that you have several water, wastewater, X-Water reporter deployments in Ohio. Yeah, so I think if you're familiar, Shauna, with Win911 and with XL Reporter, you might be able to kind of see in particular the benefits of using the mobile app, right, to allow people to get at data and notifications rather than having to open up back doors and VPNs and things for people to get directly into SCADA networks. You can have Win911's modular deployment in the plant, so it's got a secure gateway for all that data. Over your network layers to get out to the internet so people can consume it. And you're not opening these wide channels for people to get directly at, say, the SCADA system. Let's see, we'll give one more moment here for any other questions that could be coming in. And again, apologize for the delay and the fact that we're going into OT here. All right, looks like we don't have any other questions coming in. Thank you all for attending today's presentation. I hope this was a good look into the different capabilities that SmartSights offers with notifications, reports, and our Smart Bundle, and how those can kind of demonstrably save time and improve efficiency of water plant operations. Thanks again, everyone, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.